12 noon Eastern time, 1 hour of action-packed football. Look at this, a triumvirate today. It's going to be me, it's going to be Ian, it's going to be Jay, it's going to be picks, it's going to be plays, up-to-the-date information. Let's start with the man on the top right-hand corner. Jay, what's good, my brother? It's NFL Sunday.
Yes, sir. Let's go. I'm excited about the card. I like it. Happy to do my first show with Ian. Let's get it done.
Ian Cameron, we don't need to bring you in here, do we? I mean, you're a veteran around. We see you on multiple videos. It's NFL Sunday. You're Canadian. You love football. What's not to love here today, right?
Exactly. I'm an old man now in this business. You're right, Donnie. It's crazy, but it's good to be with Jay too. Sports Keg. I mean, my goodness, this guy never sleeps. He puts in the time. It's amazing. Marathon live betting shows. Fantastic, by the way. And has done a great job with the picks on those shows. Like I've seen the unit count. Unbelievable job. Looking forward to see NFL today. A really interesting card. I think a really good betting card. So good opportunities. Let's see if we can uncover some for the viewers.
No, it's going to be fun because what we love about this show is obviously the odds continue to change. You get the inactive reports that come out. You get to go side by side. And the best part about it is we always say, Ian and Jay, information is king. Like you might hear something that maybe you missed over. Maybe it leans you into pushing towards a play and making you some money. That's what we do here on sportsbookreview.com on the closing line. Let's get right into it. We're going to go 451, 452 in the Meadowlands. Arizona and the New York Giants. You see the Arizona Cardinals playing a little bit better football. We see the Giants and Danny Dimes, hey, a little bit under the weather, quote unquote, so to speak, in New England with a lot of injuries, but getting guys back. Saquon Barkley's going to be back. You know, the tight end's going to be back. They're at home. Do we see this win streak continue for the Arizona Cardinals? Some big news, obviously, DJ, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals, he is active and ready in this game. So a full complement. Christian Kirk did not make it to the starting line, but a lot of Larry Fitzgerald today. An improving Giant squad, an improving Arizona squad. Ian, we'll start with you first here in the Meadowlands. What's your first look here?
Yeah, I have two plays on this game. I laid the 3 with the Giants. I think this is a step down in class for Daniel Jones. Yeah, he's faced some pretty good defenses. I don't think Arizona is one of them. We've seen them just get absolutely ripped apart in recent weeks. Bad secondary play. They'd been banged up right from day one this season in the secondary, which just isn't very good to begin with. There's not much of a pass rush. I think we're finding out some of those players on that defensive front not bringing that pass rush that we thought they would along that defensive front. So I think Daniel Jones is going to have time. It's finally a matchup that I think is manageable for what's still, a little bit of a shaky Giant offensive line at times. You mentioned it, Donnie, about the fact they're going to get some key skill position weapons back for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram. That's certainly going to help the offense big time against a defense they should be able to move the ball against. Now, on the flip side, though, the Giants' defense is still a mess. They really haven't improved a whole lot throughout the course of the season, and Kyler Murray and company, they can roll in there, and I think they're feeling some confidence. I think it took time in this Cliff Kingsbury system and offense, but you're starting to see them improve on that side of the ball. Murray's finding some receivers down the field. It'll hurt without Kirk, but he's still got Fitzgerald to rely on. David Johnson being there is going to help them. I think they'll score some points. I do think the Giants will eke out the win. I wouldn't lay too much more than 3.5. I know it is gone up to 3.5, but give me New York here, and I think in terms of the total, I can't envision this being anything but a shootout. At 50, I'll go over the total as well.
Yeah, if we take a look at SBRodds.com, primarily 3.5 across the board. If you're looking at over-unders, 49.5, 50s are showing up. Jay, this is your neck of the woods up here. And as we know, keeping an eye on some of these stormy weather type situations, you're up by the Meadowlands. What's your look on this game, Arizona and the New York Giants?
Yeah, I think I like the Giants team total over here. I think they get over the number against this Arizona team. Also, I've been looking to back anybody that's playing the Cardinals in the first half because Arizona has scored the majority of their points in the second half. They are tiring these defenses down. They have the fastest snap rate in the NFL. So I'm not betting this game, but if I was, I'd probably have a look on the Giants first half or the Giants team total over full game.
Yeah, it's interesting look because I like what you're talking about there because when you're taking a look at an athletic quarterback like Kyler Murray is, that pass rush is feeling good. It's feeling simple first and second quarter. But then after you've rushed the passer 40 times, have to chase this kid around, you're right. It does take a little bit off. And we're talking about a Giants defense, not really highly rated at this point. Looking at this game overall, not many changes, still saying it to 3.5, as you just talked about a few moments ago. But I don't have a wager per se on this game. It's kind of interesting, though. Does anybody disagree with the line movement? And we took a look at Chris, -1 to open the week, and now finishing up. We even saw some 4s pop up. Anybody have a discrepancy with that and not agreeing with it? But I actually agree with it. I think the Giants are the better football team and should win here. And I do agree with the line movement.
I agree too.
Yep. I agree too. Yeah. And the total's been going up slowly all week. I agree with that too.
Yeah, we'll see how this rain impacts it because I know, I'm about 90 miles south. Jay's a little bit closer to the Meadowlands. It is slightly raining here, but as the day progresses, it should get a little bit heavier at times. But also, we're talking about an NFL stadium. We're talking about turf, not so much grass. There is another maybe impact weather spot we're going to take a look at in just a little bit.
One last thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
This game, both of these teams, top 8, by the way, seconds per snap. In terms of about 24 seconds on the play clock when they snap the ball on average left on the play clock. So these are two teams that play at a much quicker pace and tempo in terms of seconds per snap than a lot of the other teams in this league.
No, it's a really good look that you have there. And it'll be fun to watch because two young quarterbacks going at it. We'll see who gets the upper hand. But the one thing I do like, Ian, when we talk about young quarterbacks, progressive with the New York Giants, I love the fact that they had to go into New England with like two hands tied behind their back, and he still was able to perform. Now you get some weapons back. We'll see what happens here. 453, 454, Houston and Indianapolis. This is going to go a long way probably in deciding who's going to win that division. And who would have thought that, Ian, when we were sitting down in Miami, watching college football, saying, oh, my God, Andrew Luck is out. What's going to take place? Frank Reich has done a great job. And it's what we expected from Frank Reich to do a great job. Taking a look at this game here, opens up at a pick on -1, depending on where you're shopping. Pinnacle showing at SBRodds.com, -1, -1.5 across the board. Opened up 48-47, depending where you're shopping on the total. That's now dipped a little bit down to 46.5. You're getting a little bit banged up secondaries on both sides. You're getting an electric quarterback on one side of the ball in Deshaun Watson. 4 really good wide receivers. To me, I don't agree with the line movement with it dropping, Ian and Jay. I think this total, we're going to see some points in this game. It's going to be one of the more fun games to watch. Who's going to combat who? We'll start with you first in this one, Jay. What's your look here on this one?
Donnie, I don't understand the line move on this total, man. I absolutely love the over. All I see is points in this game. And it opens up at 48 down to 46.5 right now, or 46, I think. Deshaun Watson has been rock solid this year. I think that Houston has the best trio of wide receivers in the league. And on the flip side, their defense, their front seven has not been as dominant as it was a year ago, right? Clowney's gone. They haven't been average. They've been slightly above average, but still nowhere near as good, I think, as they were last year. On the other sideline, Jacoby Brissett has proved himself to be a competent starting quarterback in the league. Marlon Mack, every time I see him, I like the kid more. The Colts are in the bottom 3 in most defensive efficiency rankings that I see. I love the total. All I see is points. Sidewise, I don't know, man. I think Houston is a better team than the Colts, even though I see a lot of people that I respect on the Colts this week. But for me, it's over, my favorite total of the week.
Yeah, look, Frank Reich coming off a bye. There's a lot to be said about that. And I do agree because my look is more towards the totals in this football game than it is the side, just like Jay was pointing out. But Ian, if we take a look at the Indianapolis Colts, a lot of people are going to start this game and say, well, wait a second here. Didn't you just see what they did against the Kansas City Chiefs? Isn't that the same game plan? One would think that is correct, but let's, have bygones be bygones here. Patrick Mahomes was on one leg. You didn't have Tyreek Hill, and Sammy Watkins left after like one play in that football game. This is a dynamic wide receiving core and a electric quarterback that's going to come at this team. Frank Reich's going to need a big one today, Ian. What do you think about the Colts and the Texans game today, Ian?
I can't wait to see all this love for the Houston Texans the last week. Wow, big win against Kansas City. We destroyed a bad, hopeless, pathetic Atlanta team, and we're all getting all pumped up and excited right now. Well, these are the spots where Bill O'Brien crashes and burns, and the clunker and the lay of an egg is right around the corner. I think it's today for this Houston team. I like Indy, and I like Indy a lot from a spot perspective, from a situational perspective. And when you're betting NFL football week to week, you have to factor in the situationals and the spot. And for the Colts, it's off a bye. It's Frank Reich extra time to prepare against a coach he's flat out better than, as far as I'm concerned. It's a situation where the Colts get Darius Leonard, their best defensive player, in my opinion, back on the football field. And boy, it couldn't come a moment too soon. Because I will say this, you're playing a Houston offense that does look potent, that does look explosive right now, that has had no problem getting big plays and points in bunches the last few weeks. This is the right time to get a guy like that back on your football team. This is just me liking the Colts at home. They've played very good football in this dome, Lucas Oil Stadium, all season long. Good record here. Off a bye, rested, get a great defensive player back, a coach I trust. Frank Reich's done a great job, unbelievable game plan in Kansas City that Sunday night 2 weeks ago to neutralize Mahomes and that Chiefs team. Yeah, I don't argue with you guys liking the total. I'd certainly lean over before under as well. My look is going to be Indy at pick here. I took pick on Indy at a pick 'em price. I think they get the job done. It will get Houston for all this love and praise. I think the Houston hype train's gone a little carried away, and today they get brought down a notch.
Anthony Mastronardi in the chat box says, Donnie, only thing I'm worried about is the Colts cornerback that has locked down Hopkins both times last year in a game. Big decision. Hamstring injuries might be one of Hopkins. But here's what the problem is here when you're taking a look. Let's not forget also, Kenny Stills has missed the last 2 games. He's coming back healthy in this. Kiki Kuti is healthy. You have maybe the best 4 wide receivers in the NFL that are going to line up against a team down its best pass rusher. Justin Houston tweaked his, old man Justin Houston, I should say, tweaked his calf early in the week. He's not going to be 100%. Yes, Leonard is coming back, but when Darius Leonard is coming back, that might be a good thing, because if he's going to clog up the running game, what do you have to do? Air it out to 4 wide receivers with a banged up secondary. This is going to be a pretty good game. I'm leaning more towards a total than a side in this one, but it's going to be fun to watch. Ian, here we go. Here's a good one for you, right in your neck of the woods. 455, 456, Miami and Buffalo. And the first thing we look at here, everybody said the same thing. Hold on. 17 points the Buffalo Bills are favored by. Over-under comes in around 40, 41. Now actually sitting at 42.5. The Dolphins, Xavier Howard comes up out of nowhere here on the inactives reports. When you look at just man for man what the Miami Dolphins present, why not the Buffalo Bills here by 20? Ian, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, it's off a bye. Sean McDermott's a coach I trust off a bye. There's no question. I think there's another coach that's done a great job with his football team. We talked about Reich with Indy. You got to put McDermott with Buffalo in that same category. He's done an incredible job. Unbelievable defense. They've been rushing the passer well. They've been stopping the run all season. Lot to like with this Bills. But the thing we don't know yet about Buffalo, and I know the other side is a horror show right now, the Miami Dolphins. Are the Buffalo Bills a lay 17 with kind of team? Are they really a team that you can go out there and say with confidence and conviction, yeah, I can lay 17 points with you? I'm still not sure I'm there yet with them. I mean, they're going to have, they haven't scored more than 28 points in a game this season. And here they are laying 17. So you're going to have to try to get something from this team on the offensive side of the football if they're going to cover this kind of number. Certainly they're capable against the Miami defense. Josh Allen should have. And Josh Allen gets Devin Singletary back. And boy, what a nice return this is for the Buffalo Bills. He was really playing well prior to that injury in week 2. Having him back helps. Like Frank Gore, the old man Winter, he's done a great job in Singletary's absence, but it's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, more explosive and dynamic in that running back spot. Having him back is going to help. I know it's Fitzmagic, people saying Fitzpatrick starting. What's Flores doing here? They yanked the chain from Rosen already, but Miami's a team that's going nowhere. Fitzpatrick, you don't know what you're going to get. That's the problem with capping a game involving Fitzpatrick. You could light it up, and he could throw 4 picks and you get blown out and lose by 3 touchdowns. I could see either thing happening here. I do think there could be, I like the proactive thought of the total going up a little bit. It was 41, 42.5. I think Buffalo's offense, if they're going to have a big day, it's got to be today at home, off a bye against this Miami defense. Fitzpatrick's good for chucking the ball around and maybe putting up, 10, 15, 14, 17 points himself. Maybe you look at a low total and maybe make a case for the over here.
No, I agree with you on that, Jay. I'm going to get to a couple points here with you, Jay, as well. Fitzpatrick comes in early in the week. A lot of people looked at this game saying, oh, this is stone cold under because Josh Rosen's going to be in, not a dynamic, quarterback. Not to say Fitzpatrick is a dynamic quarterback, but we know, let's Ian put it up, the boomer bust. He's going to throw in the double coverage, which is awesome because it might get a penalty or a big play, or it could be an interception going back the other way. That's going to play out. Jay, your thoughts on this game with Buffalo here?
Donnie, we're from New Jersey. The Buffalo Bills are a fugazi, bro.
Uh-oh.
Come on. Can we get real for a minute? Okay. The Miami Dolphins are god-awful, okay? I understand that. 17 points? 17 points? Yep. The Buffalo Bills have beaten their last 3 opponents by a combined 17 points. And one of them were the Bengals. They beat them by 4. They beat the New York Jets by a point. I mean, could we slow it down a little bit with Buffalo? Is their defense top tier? Yes. They are 3rd in defensive DVOA. They are stout, okay? But it's not sustainable to win in the NFL when you're in the bottom 5 of almost every offensive rating that a metric that analytics go by. I don't buy it, bro. I'm not a believer in Josh Allen. I'm holding my nose, and I'm taking the 17 on general principle alone. When's the last time that they laid 17? Was Jim Kelly the quarterback?
Gotta be. I can't imagine.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I actually heard it was 1991 or 92 with Jim Kelly in a regular season game against, I believe, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back when Chris Berman was calling it the old sombrero, back then. Yeah.
I can't do it, Donnie. I can't do it. I got to take the points.
Yeah, I didn't have a wager on this game, but I got to tell you, like during the week, I'm looking at some of these numbers, and the numbers are there for a reason. There's algorithms they come up with, and it was always shocking to see 28.5, 29 is the Buffalo team total. I'm going to tease it a little bit here for the end of the show. I think the Buffalo Bills scored a little bit of points in this game, so we'll keep it moving here. 457, 458, a big battle here in the NFC. That's going to be Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford. Kirk Cousins, how about that? Back-to-back weeks playing well versus the Giants, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Does he continue here on the road? Detroit laying in the weeds. And the one thing that I always love in the sports discussion is when we get ramped up and we get angry about the refereeing, because I'm a big conspiracy theorist. So is there calls into the league that says you better make up? We need 2 or 3 plays where maybe it's not pass interference. We get the call. Maybe there's a big play, a holding penalty that brings back a big play from Minnesota. I always like to believe in those type of theories, even if they aren't true. But we got a hot Minnesota team coming in, a live Detroit team. What are we going to see in this game? Jay, we'll start with you first here.
I passed on this game only because the Lions usually play better at home, and it scares me a little bit to take the Vikings. But I'll tell you, man, the analytics love this Vikings team. They're in the top 5 in offense and defense. It appears that whatever riff that Minnesota had in the locker room is gone. Thielen and Diggs and Cousins seem to be okay. And, the Detroit Lions, aside from a couple trick plays on against the Packers on, I don't know if that was Thursday or Monday night, that offense looked abysmal. I mean, they're a top 15 defense. My gut says if you lay the 2.5 here with the Vikings, you're probably a winner. But I just can't do it because Detroit surprises people at home. They always have. So I'm going to pass, lean Vikings -2.5.
Ian, how about this one here? We take a look at Pinnacle opens up at -2 Detroit. Chris opens up at -1. Now, if we look at Chris's line today, -2.5. Pinnacle -2.5. A huge line swing. Are you agreement with this? Was this Vikings line movement, Ian?
Yeah, it is a short week for Detroit. It's a concern for sure. And just the horror of the calls that went against them in that game against Green Bay on Monday night, and the hangover from it's a bit of a concern. But if I do see it, I lean Detroit here, but if I do see +3 show up by kickoff, I don't think I will, but if I do, I'll have a drop in the bucket on the Lions here. Minnesota on the road is not quite the same. We'll see what they can. I know they beat up the Giants a couple weeks ago on the road, but we'll see if they can do it. I still remember that Chicago game. I can't get that out of my mind. At Soldier Field earlier this season, Kirk Cousins in that offense looked absolutely inept. Adam Thielen's flapping his gums after the game, saying you got to throw the ball deep. There was that whole little riffraff going on. Now they're saying that, hey, we've mended fences, everything's hunky-dory again. Smiles and lollipops and rainbows and all that good stuff again in Minnesota. I got to see them now, though, on the road here against a Detroit defense that I think's impressed me. I thought they played good defense against the Packers the other night, and Aaron Rodgers shut them down. Red zone defense was outstanding. I'm not convinced Kirk Cousins marches up and down the field on the road here against a Lions defense that's proven capable. I lean Lions. I won't bet it till I see a +3 because I say a Minnesota win by 3 is easily in the cards here for me. I could see that happening. But a +3, I'll be a small buyer on Detroit.
Jay, if we take a look between both of you guys here, Jay and Ian, looking at the total, opens up in 44 in that range. It actually drops to a 43.5. These are two teams that know each other. Matt Patricia wants to hang his hat on defense. Mike Zimmer wants to hang his hat on defense. And the one thing that I can't get out of my mind is sometimes you have to look past the past 2 weeks. The defensive secondaries that they did face, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, really poor. They matched up extremely well with the Vikings. One would think Darius Slay out there is going to slow down that passing game, make it a little bit harder, leaning on, running game of actually Dalvin Cook, a couple injuries on the Detroit line. If we take a look at totals in this game between either one of you with Jay or Ian, are we looking over here? Are you looking maybe to say, you know what, it's going to be a hard-fought NFC battle here? Let's start with you there, Jay.
I thought the line was about right, Donnie. Mm-hmm. I thought, like you say, division rivals. Anytime you play, these teams know each other. Normally, a little more lower scoring game. The Vikings have a really, really solid defense, and the Lions are a top 12 defense by the numbers. So I think the number is about right. I don't see value in it.
Ian, how about you? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I would lean under. I would certainly play the under before the over in this game, 43.5. I would definitely go under the total if I were to play this game from a totals perspective. The one concern is we have seen these teams' propensity at times for turnovers and forcing turnovers on the defensive side of the football, and that, as we know, can sometimes set up short fields, and that can quickly make a 43.5 a little treacherous if it gets to that point. But definitely in terms of the matchups, I would lean under the total for sure. Donnie, you're muted. Donnie. There you go.
There we go. Let's get it corrected. Yeah, going back and forth between StreamYard and stuff like that really gets on my nerves, and I do that quite a bit. Thank you for catching me there. But the autumn wind is a Raider. I was going to say, we were laughing at the Raiders, right? Oh, my God. No AD. What are they going to do? Look at this long stretch they're going to have on the road. Boy, they're going to get back. They gave up a home game against the Bears to go over and get shredded overseas. Not the case. They're actually playing really good football at this point, heading into a banged-up Green Bay team that was, as we always take a look at here on the closing line, information is king, getting it right up to the kickoff. Banged up guys coming back. You're getting some wide receivers that we might not have thought would come back in this game for the Green Bay Packers. They're going to show up. That's going to impact, because early in the week, I was actually trying to find a way to take the over, at least the Green Bay team total over, going up against this Oakland Raiders defense, and it still looks like that's going to help. But what are we talking about here from a Raiders perspective? Controlling the run game, still down their top wide receiver, but we've seen John Gruden be able to scheme around injuries and a team that we didn't think was all that, talented once you cut AB at the wide receiver positions. They're going into Green Bay. Big win by Green Bay last week over the Detroit Lions. A little questionable at a late second field goal, end up winning that game. We'll start with you first here, Jay. Any look, are the Oakland Raiders for real? Not by saying they can win the game, but is this going to be a competitive game that they can stay inside this number?
You know what, Donnie? They're the most surprising team to me personally this year. I think anybody that got that opening line of 7 and took the 7 points, I think you are rock solid. I really like them to stay within a touchdown. Now we're squeaking down to 4.5. I think the public has squeezed the juice out of the number. I don't really think there's value, but John Gruden, man, he sees how bad this Green Bay run defense has been, and Josh Jacobs might get the ball 35 times today. The defense is a top 20 defense, playing a little bit better than I thought they would. Marlon Conley came up with big picks last week. I think that if you got the number early, you're rock solid. But right now, I think you're creeping to the point where any lower and maybe the Packers are worth a small play.
Ian, Lambeau, Oakland, coming off the road overseas. Did they come in here and post a nice victory over Green Bay? Or does Green Bay say, you know what, we got Aaron Rodgers, we got my wide receivers back here, we're good here?
I think coming into the season, we all thought Donnie clown show, Oakland Raiders, they're going to have a miserable season and all that. We looked at this. Everybody did. Everybody that analyzes schedules for teams circled this 5-game swatch for Oakland here: at Minnesota, at Indy, Chicago, in London, at Green Bay, at Houston. Are you even going to win one football game out of that mix? They've already won 2.
Yeah.
They've already won 2 of those games, including – and I saw the game against Chicago in London. I made sure I watched a lot of that game because I had a losing ticket with the Bears in that one, laying the points. That was not a fraudulent win for Oakland. They blew Chicago's defensive front off the ball consistently. Josh Jacobs, Jay just mentioned him, 126 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. That's not supposed to happen against Chicago's defensive front. That's just not supposed to happen. The Oakland offensive line, now that's 2 weeks in a row in their wins against Indy and Chicago, they have pushed the defense off the football. All right. So John Gruden's doing something right with that O-line. They're playing well right now. They're opening up holes for the run game. They're finally giving Derek Carr some time to throw the football. I like Oakland here plus the points. I agree that with Jay's sentiment that you've lost some line value. You've lost some value in this number here, but they're off the bye week. Time to get prepared for Green Bay. Coming off that miraculous hold on for dear life referee-aided victory on Monday night against Detroit. I lean Oakland. I also lean to this game over the total because Green Bay is going to have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's going to be in there today. Geronimo Allison's going to go. Let's give Alan Lazard credit. Man, did that guy play good down the stretch for Aaron Rodgers. Big catches down the stretch to preserve the win for Green Bay. All of a sudden, that receiving core looks a lot healthier and intact than it looked like they would be early in the week. I like Oakland. I like this game over the total.
Yeah, one of those teams we're going to have to worry about later in the year because let's not forget, I mean, they're talented at wide receiver. You get Devontae Adams back, maybe Jimmy Graham stays healthy for the season. And of course, you're only going to get to know each other better between quarterback and head coach Matt LaFleur as the season goes on. They started out hot. If they stay hot, one of the better home field advantages down the stretch, especially when we get into December in the playoffs, is going to be at Lambeau. Should be a fun one to watch. But I agree, Ian, with the total here. Looking at 46.5, 46 is where they open up. You get that good news back at wide receiver, some decent weather conditions. Now we're at 48s and 47.5 across the board. We're going to keep it moving here. Go to the state of Ohio, 461, 462. Jacksonville and Cincinnati. Minshew Mania goes on the road against Andy Dalton. What's to like about Cincinnati and the Bengals? Well, really not much to like. And then when you take a look at the inactive reports, let's say my defense is already horrific in Cincinnati, right? Well, how about if I say, let's take away both of our defensive ends and let's take away both of our starting cornerbacks? I don't know where the stops are going to come from Cincinnati at this point. Now, is it a light-up offense that we could take a look at with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Not necessarily, but DJ Shark should be able to eat in this game. D.D. Westbrook's going to play. Leonard Fournette should have ample running room, and Minshew should have time in the pocket to throw, which should mean some points. Myself, forget about taking the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road at this number. You know when I like the Jacksonville Jaguars, guys, is when they're getting 2.5 points, 3.5 points, that little feisty underdog role. Now they're going to play the favorite role, but I do think there's going to be some points scored just by default. I think Jacksonville's going to get up. I think Andy Dalton's going to have to throw the football around, and we're not looking at a ton of points. 43.5, 44 is now seeing 44 and 44.5, so somebody's agreeing with me out there. We'll start with you first, Jay. In the jungle today, Jacksonville gets this victory, or Cincinnati maybe a little bit sneaky with that 4-point line?
I think you're dead on balls, man. If you're looking at back the Jags, you're looking to take them at, as a home dog +3. It's really tough to lay 4 with this team right now on the road. But I agree, man. I think DJ Clark, D.D. Westbrook eat today. I think Leonard Fournette should get what he wants now that Cincinnati has some guys out on the line. I mean, you're talking about the 26th and 31st ranked defense by most metrics that I look at. The Cincinnati Bengals are a dreadful football team. They really are. I mean, they have no weapons. They have Eifert and Boyd. I don't see it. I personally, if they were home, I would probably lay the number. I'm not laying it on the road. I agree with you. Bad football teams like you and I talked about last week normally score points, right? Yep. So, yeah, I like the over.
Ian, if we take a look at this football game, right? Jacksonville, forget about the lines. Oh, they can win this game. Sure, they can win the game. But you're looking at some lines even in New Jersey or even at Chris at -4.5. That means, Ian, Jacksonville probably going to have to win by a touchdown here on the road with the young quarterback after playing a tough, hard-fought loss against New Orleans. Can they do it today, Ian?
I'm upset I missed the 3, but I still actually laid 3.5 early in the week with Jacksonville. I actually do think this number's cheap. Now it's 4.5. Not as much do I like it, but I'd still give Jacksonville some kind of bet here, even at the current number. There's nothing to like about Cincinnati. That's as fraudulent a final score as you'll ever see last week at Baltimore. It'll say 23-17. If you watch the game, they got crushed in that game. Turnovers were an issue for Baltimore. They were outgained significantly, the Bengals. That should have been probably a fortuitous point spread cover if you had Cincinnati last week, but there's nothing to like. The defense is banged up. Carlos Dunlap, you mentioned it, defensive end. You mentioned their defense in general is not very good. Has their stock fallen more in the last year or two than Tyler Eifert? Can't find this guy on the football field with a telescope sometimes. I mean, my goodness. And that's probably a product of a horrendous offensive line, a quarterback that's mistake prone, and Andy Dalton. Again, they've missed A.J. Green all season. That's made a huge world of difference to this Bengals offense as well. Jacksonville's defense, I don't think it's obviously quite as good as it's been the last couple of years, but they can neutralize, I think, a very limited. They haven't been able to run the football with Mixon consistently either. That's been a problem for the Bengals. Yeah, I don't mind taking Jacksonville here, even at -4. I laid 3.5, and even at 4, I can endorse it still and lean over the total as well.
I mean, taking a look at Cincinnati, depending on what publication you're looking at, dead last or, bottom 3 in the NFL overall in defense. Coverage skills with healthy cornerbacks, horrible. Now they're down 2 more. Pass rush, already horrible. Down their 2 best pass rushers. Yeah. And their run defense, which just doesn't stop much. You're going to get a barrel full of Leonard Fournette coming into it. But this is one of those games, guys, I call, it looks too easy. Like, you shouldn't just take Jacksonville, and if we say, Leonard Fournette gets 25 carries, they should just steamroll this football team. But it is the NFL. You got to win games on the road. We'll see what happens in this one, but definitely an interesting look. How about this one? 463, 464 down in the Dome. I said last week on this show, and I bet it myself, I said this is going to be Atlanta's last stand in this football game, for the season. I think their head coach should get fired if they lose this game. I watch it. They start. It's out. Atlanta goes up 7-0. I'm like, all right, here we go. And then the bottom falls out. And you know when the bottom really falls out, when you miss extra points in football games to basically take a loss. Now you're expected to go home. Your season is done at this point, right? The Rams are coming in. They didn't have a good showing last week versus the 49ers. You figure everybody gets right against this Atlanta defense. You have 3 elite wide receivers coming in, an emerging tight end. You're getting, look, I know Todd Gurley's only on one leg, but at least he's coming back and can play, at the worst case scenario, a decoy. Jared Goff needs a big game here. And then we're seeing midweek threes, plus 105, plus 110, almost dipping to 2.5. I'm scratching my head going, you get Jalen Ramsey, and the line is going in the opposite direction. But we did have a little bit of a rebound today. You're getting the threes with juice now. Ian, I'm going to start with you first here. This is an interesting one because everything screams Rams, but then you have that odd line movement during the week.
Yeah, if it screams Rams and I fall for the trap, so be it. This is my best bet on the NFL card today. I laid the 3 with the LA Rams here in this game. I don't want to hear this BS about, it's a bounce back spot or a save our season spot for Atlanta. You know when it was a save your season spot for Atlanta? When they got drilled in Indy, they got a bunch of garbage points in the second half to make that game close. They came back against Tennessee, and I bought into it being a bounce back spot because I laid the 3 or whatever it was with Atlanta in that game against Tennessee, and they didn't show up to play. They got buried by a Tennessee team that we're finding out right now is nothing special. Marcus Mariota, you want to know the one good game he's had all year? It was against this pathetic Atlanta defense. That was the one good game he's had all year. He stunk in every other game other than that, as far as I'm concerned. All I heard after that loss against Tennessee, which should have been a bounce-back spot, save our season. Oh, Houston, save our season. Oh, they got run out by the Texans, run out in that football game. Oh, save our season against a bad Arizona team, a team we can finally beat. Oh, we miss an extra point. We lose 34-33. Our defense doesn't show up, gets carved up by a rookie quarterback. No. I'm not buying into any more save your season spots for Atlanta. This is a dead team walking, a lame duck coach on Dan Quinn on his way out the door. This is a buy low spot for the Rams. I don't fault them for any of the losses. Everybody's going to say the sky's fallen, but you lose to a good San Francisco team. No shame in that. You lose to Russell Wilson in Seattle, who's having an MVP type season at the quarterback spot. No shame in that. Okay, you lose to Tampa, but you were in a little bit of a flat spot after a Sunday night game. That's the one bad loss. This is get well time for LA. And the Jalen Ramsey trade, you know what that does, guys? That tells the locker room and Sean McVay and everybody, we believe in this team still at 3-3. We can make a run. We can get this thing turned around, get the train back on the tracks, turn this season around. The turnaround starts today. I love the Rams -3.
You're so right on the point you bring up, Ian, because it's the same thing we talked about to the Dolphins. Everybody's a human being. And when the front office says, you guys got no shot to win. You know how much of a no shot you have to win? We're going to trade everybody away and not replace anything. We're going to get some draft picks in here. That sets the tone for the season. It's no amazing surprise that the Miami Dolphins are spiraling. But you're right. When you get that boost midseason, like, you know what? Coaching staff, front office thinks we can really win. Let's go out here and get a victory. And no better one to get against this. Jay, I'm going to start with you in this game also. Take a look at a total here, right? Everybody gets right on Atlanta. You have the right ingredients. Outside of your offensive line, which is banged up with some injuries, you have a really good tight end, 3 good wide receivers, and Todd Gurley, again, worst case scenario, he's going to be a really good decoy for play action today. But also on the other side, Matt Ryan's not playing bad. You got Julio Jones, who's going to go up against Jalen Ramsey, which might stymie him. What that's going to leave, on the opposite end, Ridley, Hooper at tight end. Do we get some points in this game? Do you agree with the line movement here that we're now sitting? Let me get an updated number on this. 54.5, 55s across the board. Can it get there?
Yeah, Donnie, Ian literally took the words out of my mouth. If this is a trap, man, I'm hook, line, and sinker. I'm falling in it.
Yep.
As far as the total, yeah, Matt Ryan always puts up points at home. And if there was one defense that you could give McVay, like you said, to get right and back on track, it's this Atlanta Falcons defense. This secondary is fucking brutal, man. It is terrible. Okay. And the Rams are coming in off back-to-back losses, right? Even though they shouldn't have lost that Seattle game, a missed field goal at the end, they lose the game. I just don't understand. Ordinarily, when I don't understand a line move, I don't bet the game. I don't know why 3/4 of the tickets throughout the week were heavy on the Rams, but for the majority of the week, they would not move that line off 3. That's the only thing that makes me nervous in this game, right? I'm on the Rams. I took a -3. Could they get over the total? Yeah, I think they could get over the total. But I don't know. I just think the Rams, if you're gonna bet something in this game, I think you just take the Rams -3 and avoid the total.
Yeah, Cooks, Woods, Cooper Kupp.
Right.
Who is slowing them down? Especially, you're down already your best cornerback. You're down your best safety from a couple weeks ago. Your pass rush, which the one thing we used to be able to hang our hat on and say, you know what? If Atlanta's really not tough on defense, they have a really fast middle linebacker, but their defensive ends can get up the field. They're built for speed. They're built for turf, and they haven't shown up either. So if this is going to be another one of those, my last stand for Atlanta last week was like, hey, you know what? Let's see what they can do. They found themselves down 27-10 on the road, needed a miracle just to get back in that foot. I don't care if there was fumbles that weren't reviewed and, missed extra points and bad spots at the end of football games. Atlanta didn't deserve to win that football game, being down 17 points in that one. Last 1 o'clock game we'll get to today, 465, 466. Jimmy G in San Francisco, one of the hottest football teams out here. You want to talk about a coach dialing up the right playbook. You want to take a look at a football team that can run the ball. You want to take a look at a team that can dial up pass routes. You have everything you need with the San Francisco 49ers. Last week, banged up against the Rams, a completely dominant effort. The defense has been sensational, built on that front seven and getting really good play from the secondary. You're coming in today to the nation's capital. It's not really that windy, but there is going to be rain throughout the ball game. I'm actually surprised that this game is still saying at -10s majority across the board. The one thing I'm not surprised is the line dropping. Jimmy and I talked about on the audible, what are we looking for? 41, 42. And I told him, hey, look, you're more likely to get something lower than you would higher. You might as well lock in the under if you like it at that point. So now we're taking a look at SBRodds.com across the board, 38.5, 39s at this point here. Do we see the same dominant performance? Because let's not forget, these Washington Redskins just last week almost lost to the Miami Dolphins. Ian, we'll start with you first.
Now, one last point I want to make on the last game. People saying in the chat, we're still worried about Goff. I agree. Goff's a mistake prone at times, but good pass rushes get to Jared Goff. Atlanta doesn't have a pass rush right now. It's been non-existent for weeks, so that's why I think Jared Goff's going to be okay today in that game and be a lot better. As for the San Francisco-Washington game, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because this was a game early in the week. I just put an X beside. I'm like, I'm not interested in this game. This is not a San Francisco. This is not a late almost doubles on the road spot with San Francisco. You're off 2 big wins in a row. Huge win against the Rams last week, going west to east. Early start game against Washington, but the Redskins aren't backable to me at all. So I'll just keep it simple. Pass.
Jay, how about you? Passing on this football game? Or you see some dominance? You see a look at the over, the under? What's some matchups in here that we might be able to exploit from your side?
I probably end up passing, but I do think the line's probably a little cheap on the 49ers. I think they are so much better than the Redskins that even though that they're laying 10 on the road, I think this is like a 28-7 type game. I think it probably stays under the number only because, we're talking about the second best defense in the NFL right now. And, what are the Washington Redskins working with? Case Keenum, Adrian Peterson, and Terry McLaurin? I mean, really? I mean, that's absolutely brutal. I think, the defensive front seven for the San Francisco 49ers had 4 sacks last week. Dee Ford gets off for a sack and a half. I think George Kittle is going to absolutely destroy the middle of this field. I think the line's cheap. I think they probably cover the spread. And I think it probably still squeaks under the number. But you can't bet it at 39.5 or whatever it is when it opened at 42. So, I probably pass, but I think they cover.
Yeah, here's the interesting look from me from what I'm looking for, like a Washington Redskins, what they should have been able to do well. When you're taking a look at a front seven that's so dominant like the 49ers are, you need escape hatches for a quarterback. We already know you're not getting Aaron Rodgers back there. You're not getting Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott, anybody relevant. You're getting Case Keenum. So when that pass rush bears down on you, what's awesome? Have your little scat back, Chris Thompson, out of the backfield. Dump it off for a 5-yard gain as opposed to taking a sack. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's not playing today. Or how about this? A dominant athletic tight end. Vernon Davis was slowing down in his years, but still a viable target. Even with Reed, who started the season on IR. Boy, would it be nice when that defense is clamming down to have a guy wide open 5 yards away from you. Those 2 guys are out there. So we're going to be led to believe that old man Adrian Peterson is going to spike this offense. Look, McLaurin's a very good wide receiver, but he's not going to have the time to get downfield. That the front seven is going to be after. Not enough weapons for Washington. I see a lower scoring game, but I'm not going to be. Is anybody going to be surprised if this game ends up 24-10 for the 49ers, guys? Anybody?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I'll tell you one thing, too. You've got Kyle Shanahan, who coaches 2019 NFL offense. You have Callahan Auto Parts for Washington, who coaches 1982 offense. So there you go. That's what you're going to see in this football game today.
Got another one, 467, 468. Move to the 4 o'clock range, 405. You got a West Coast team coming east to play the Tennessee Titans. And it's no longer Marcus Mariota. They're going to move on to Ryan Tannehill. And it's crazy when you think about it that I do believe it's an actual upgrade. I do believe with the line movement here towards the Tennessee Titans, I think they're going to be able to push the football downfield. I think they're going to be able to score some points. And I do think they win this game outright and cover versus the Chargers. But hey, Phillip Rivers is still a good quarterback. He's still a veteran. He's got some weapons he can work with. Melvin Gordon each and every week should be more ingrained back in that offense. Austin Eckler out of the backfield. I just don't see it right now because watching the past couple weeks with the Chargers, they're doing everything wrong and they're getting injured at the same time. One of those games where you might get a boost from Tannehill. I like the first half with the Tennessee Titans. I think they do win full game, but also think the Titans do score some points here and get into the 20s. Jay, we'll start with you first in this look here. Chargers, Titans, what are we looking at here from you?
Yeah, Donnie, I have to agree with you. I don't like this Titans team at all. Okay, but I think you're right. I think Tannehill is a small upgrade. If the Chargers were healthy, I'd be on the Chargers all day, right? I think they finally got Hunter Henry back. I heard is Russell Okung actually questionable now?
The problem with that is we don't get the inactives. Since it's a 4 o'clock game. Okay, so I think he's scheduled. I want to say he's scheduled to play, though.
Yeah, I thought he was. That's huge. Their best offensive lineman back. Yeah. That's really big. They get their tight end back. I know they still have both starting safeties out. But, I just think they're still at the point where they can't overcome these injuries. They're in the bottom 5 in defense. I don't like this Tennessee team at all. But Tannehill coming in probably gives this team a spark, probably rejuvenates them a little bit. So, the only way I would look would be the Titans to cover the football game, but it's a pass for me.
Over under spike from 38.5 up to 42.5 some outlets. Ian, Chargers, Tennessee Titans. What can we look at here from your perspective?
Yeah, I kind of I'll have a small bet on Tennessee here. Small one. I still don't love this team. I'm kind of disappointed their offensive line didn't get a spike in performance since Taylor Lewan came back from his suspension. It's still been a bit of a shaky offensive line, but I'll tell you right now, more of the problems for this Tennessee offense were Mariota, bad decisions, bad throws, inaccurate, just not making the right reads with the football. That has to improve at least a little bit. And I've never been a Ryan Tannehill fan, but it has to improve at least a little bit. You can't play the quarterback position worse than Marcus Mariota has played it this season, other than the game against Atlanta, which was a civ defense. That's the only good game he had this season. This is the right call. It's overdue for Mike Vrabel to make this switch. And I think it gets everybody a little bit fired up, excited that, hey, maybe we'll have a quarterback that will do things to not lose the game for a change. It's not all about winning the game as a quarterback. Don't make plays to lose the game. And Mariota's been doing that far too often for this team. A pretty good defense still, the Titans. You mentioned it with the Chargers. They're still banged up. We mentioned Will Okung be in at the offensive line. They're still Brandon Mebane may not play, their nose tackle. He's banged up. Of course, Melvin Ingram, one of their better pass rushers, not likely to go. Doubtful last I checked. So still a banged up team, and the injuries seem to be mounting. How you lose and play that badly last week against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football at home with Devlin Hodges making his first ever NFL start. That's a bad look and a horrible job by the Chargers. Yeah, I can't back Chargers right now. I'm on Tennessee a little bit here.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the games last week because you can look at the final score and be like, hey, they hung around at least with the Steelers. That game was a blowout and just had a couple late touchdowns to try to draw it closer. And then we take a look at Tennessee going on the road last week to play the Denver Broncos and looking absolutely abysmal on offense. The one things where we try to find like those little ray of light situations, well, why would maybe Tannehill actually be a better version of Marcus Mariota? Number one, it's going to push the ball down the field. You still have two decent wide receiver young options out there and a very good tight end, which will be able to spark the running game, I believe. But also, if we take a look at the 4 drives that Ryan Tannehill got last week when we try to put it under the microscope versus the Denver Broncos, 42-yard gain to A.J. Brown on his first drive, which actually got called back. That would have placed the ball 1st and 10 on the Denver 24. The second drive stalled out at the Denver 41. The last 2 drives, one stalls out at the Denver 13-yard line. The other one gets down to a 2nd and 4 for the Denver 5. They don't score because they were touchdown hunting and, taking sacks and getting penalties. Those are points drives that you might be able to add up. So maybe a little bit left under the collar here that we could take a look at the Titans, but good game nonetheless to talk about. Let's get to the primetime games at 4:25 on Sunday. This one, not for the faint of heart if you're betting, because if you're going to watch a game with 2 quarterbacks with 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s, juke 3 or 4 guys in the backfield, have nobody open, and then run for 15 yards and slide, this is the game for you. And we're talking about Baltimore and Seattle. If we take a look at the lines, opening up 4 3.5s, now roughly 3s with light juice if you're looking to take the favorite here with the Seattle Seahawks. I got burned this week. I love the Cleveland Browns. I was partying when they got up 2 touchdowns on Seattle. No way they can come back, but Russell Wilson, it's just what he does. Every big third down that he needs, he converts. Every big touchdown drive. You need points on this drive, Russell Wilson's going to get it for you. Over under in this football game, taking a look across the board, opens up at 49.5, 50s. Now we're sitting at 48.5 because we know that Seattle weather, 50 degrees. That's going to be some rainier conditions there. I'm going to start with you, Ian. This is a really good game to take a look at. Is this one where you just take the points? You say, you know what? It's Seattle. It's home. It's Russell Wilson. I'm going with it.
Yeah, it's short enough that I don't want to bet against Seattle. And I'll tell you right now, you're not going to want to hear this now, especially this 2.5 now at 5 times and even 3 elsewhere. So a lot of Baltimore money coming in. None of it's mine. And I'll tell you this, Ravens fans may not want to hear this. You don't have a good defense this year. You don't. All right. You just flat out do not have a good defense this year. It's way down from the Ravens defenses of years past. They missed CJ Mosley badly, who's now in New York with the Jets and will be returning for the Jets on Monday night, by the way. Jimmy Smith's been injured all year. The secondary's never been the same whenever he's hurt. And there's no pass rush to speak of. You know, quarterbacks are finding time to throw the ball downfield and picking apart this Baltimore defense. It's a shell of the past Ravens defenses that John Harbaugh's had. Seattle's going to light them up today. I really believe that. Russell Wilson's playing at an MVP caliber level. It's been absolutely outstanding. DK Metcalf, outstanding. Tyler Lockett got the weapons. They'll be able to move Chris Carson on the ground. They'll be able to move this ball against Baltimore. Seattle's defense has not exactly been awesome either. At this season, they were better against Cleveland, but I think Cleveland shot themselves in the foot with turnovers, with stupid play calling from Freddie Kitchens. What else is new there? Down by the goal line, which kept points off the board for Cleveland in that game. Seattle's defense is still giving up some plays too. Like Lamar Jackson has been struggling a little bit with consistency throwing the ball. But, you know, they have been a little bit better the last couple of weeks moving that ball, the Ravens. I see more than anything, not so much the side, I bet this game, but the total stands out like a sore thumb. 48.5. I think we get some points from both of these teams where the offenses, I think, are ahead of the defenses with these 2 football teams right now. So give me the over, Baltimore, Seattle.
Yeah, we take a look at this game also. Marcus Peters, a little talent infusion in the secondary that really needed for Baltimore, who was struggling on the season. But look, the last couple weeks, Baltimore seems to be getting it back a little bit together on defense. You add another cornerback piece. What can we take a look here out on the West Coast?
I think that both these teams' defenses are bad. Both these teams are known. They built their popularity on 2 incredible defenses, right? Seattle does not have the Legion of Boom anymore. The last 4 weeks, they've given up 28 to the Browns, 29 to the Rams, 33 to the Saints, and obviously the 10 points to the Cardinals. The analytics love both of these offenses, okay? But you know what, Donnie? I think this Baltimore Ravens team is overrated, man. They're still second in the league, giving up the most yards per play in the National Football League. I just don't see it, man. I think the only thing that concerns me is Seattle has been in these coin flip games in the fourth quarter where they're pulling them out, but it's, you know, it's coming down to the wire. I think that their defense is slightly better than Baltimore's. I like Seattle to cover the 3 here. And this is another total where I don't understand the line move. I'm looking at SBR Odds says this total opened at 50.5. And what is it now? 49? Why is it going down? They're 2 top 5 offenses that don't have a problem scoring points. I think this game goes over, and I think Seattle covers the 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think both of these teams will at least be in the 20s in this football game. And you bring up a pretty good point on Seattle, which is a plus and a minus in a way. They have to cover a spread to win. So if it's 3, you know, you're going to need 4 more points to cover, maybe by a touchdown. When we take a look at Seattle throughout the season, 1-point win versus Cincinnati, 2-point win versus Pittsburgh, lose by 6 to New Orleans, you know, 27-10 win to Arizona, which was a nice win, 30-29 versus the Rams.
Right.
Then you needed a light comeback. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, they're battle tested, which could be good for playoffs. But then again, you're still going to need them to win by like maybe 4 to 7 points in this game to try to get after it. So an interesting game. I'm really excited for that game. It's going to be a nice standalone 425 game. Let's talk to the other one. We got a Maserati in place that's coming back here out of the garage versus New Orleans. And I got to preface this by saying I love what New Orleans is doing this year. When you know you have a good coach, when you know you have a good ownership spot, you lose your all-world Hall of Fame quarterback, and they say, you know what? we got enough juice here. Let's ramp up the defense. Let's change things around and still continue to win. It's mighty impressive to do going on the road, beating Jacksonville last week. This is going to be a tall task against a rested and ready Bears team. But the one key ingredient, guys, I just can't seem to get out of my head. You need Alvin Kamara. Even if he's on one leg, he's such a decoy out there where you have to factor him in. When you take him away and you could just pin your ears back and no longer that dump pass out of the backfield, which if you bring a lot of heat, Kamara goes for 35 or 40 yards or moves the chains. That's not going to be there today. Jay, I'm going to start with you first again in this one. New Orleans and Chicago. Do we see a lower scoring game here? Do you think New Orleans can hang on? Or is it one of those things where I can't blame anybody? It goes, Mitchell Trubisky's in over a field goal. Yeah, I'm out on that. What's your thoughts?
You know, I hate Mitchell Trubisky, Donnie. Mm-hmm. I really do. I'm not sold on him at all. But I really think that this spot favors the Bears, man. I think they cover the 4. I mean, can Teddy Bridgewater just keep winning football games? Now no Kamara, right? I don't know, man. The Bears still have a top 5 defense. Trevathan was great last week. He had a dozen tackles. They still have David Montgomery, who I loved at Iowa State. Robinson, Cohen, and Miller are serviceable weapons. And like you said, Kamara is an incredible decoy, even on one leg. Is Latavius Murray serviceable? Sure he is. Is Michael Thomas a nice weapon to have? Sure he is. But I think the bottom has to fall out for a game or two on these Saints with Teddy Bridgewater. And I don't hate the spot for the Bears. I think they win. I think they cover. And I think this game goes under.
Yeah, early in the week, I took it on the audibles at Chicago, -3, -120, but those are long gone here. Looks like 4 is 4.5. Ian, Trubisky and Bridgewater today. Is this a bridge to the future? I'm saying, all right, Chicago, you had some time off. Let's get back in this. Because if they lose this game, being Chicago, there's going to be riots over there in Chicago, man.
Yeah, exactly. Better hope it's a Trubisky.
There you go. There you go.
This is tricky because it's a Chicago spot. All right, there's no question. And you have to pay attention to good spots versus bad spots when you're handicapping NFL week to week. And this is a good spot for the Bears. They had a little bit of a humbling moment. That loss to the Raiders in London before the bye. I mean, they didn't really show up for over a half. And then they finally got going, and by then it was too late. Chase Daniel was not good in that game. To be honest with you, I don't mind Trubisky being back because Chase Daniel was atrocious, I thought, in that game in London against the Raiders 2 weeks ago. So I think they'll actually be happy to have Trubisky back in this football game. At the same point in time, I can't lay 4.5 now at this current number. I know the Saints, somehow their defense keeps them in games. Bridgewater, what is it, 27-7, some kind of crazy ATS number. Him as a starting quarterback, unbelievable that he's been that good. But again, the loss of Kamara is big. I mean, he's been leaning on Kamara, running the football, catching it out of the backfield. You don't have that safety valve if you're Teddy Bridgewater in this game today. So that's a concern for me. The spot's too strong towards Chicago for me to go against them here, but I'm not exactly loving and comfortable with laying 4.5. I do lean under. It screams like a 14-10, 17-14 game, but you're not going to see me betting unders 37 in the NFL. Crazy crap can happen. Fumble return, touchdown, pick 6, short fields given off a turnover. 37 is a real low number. Too low for me to bet an under.
But how do you bet the under, right, Donnie? I mean, it opened up at, 39.5? Now you lost almost a field goal.
Yeah, we're still talking about the NFL. They're still NFL players. I know their defenses are good, but like when you take a look at what Ian's saying, one fumble, like one interception on your own 20 that gets wrong because you have no room for error in that ball game whatsoever. But I think the Chicago Bears will rebound this. I do think they win the football game. But again, do we trust Trubisky? Harness? What are they going to do? But when you're rested and ready and you need this victory versus a team coming off another road game and losing Alvin Kamara, I just don't see how New Orleans holds up. If they hold up here, like, you got to say, like, you know what, Sean Payton, you're about to get like a $20 million contract because this is absolutely out. Because they're going to hold serve and then get Drew Brees back. Going to be some wild stuff. But how about this wild one here? You see the you see the collared shirt. You see the background here. 473, 474 all week long. I'm going, yes. Injuries for the Cowboys finally catching up. I can't believe it. It's usually the Eagles. No cornerback. No wide receiver in this game. No tackles. And then all of a sudden, late in the week, everybody practices. It looks like they're all going to go, which is why that line movement back to 3. You saw it dip down to 2.5 to 2 during the week. Now back to 3 because it looks like Dallas is going to be full go. How healthy will they be? We don't know. But the anticipation of everybody coming back into this ball game, over/under sitting, 48.5 now, rising to 49.5, thinking that Amari Cooper's going to play. The Eagles going to throw the kitchen sink. Obviously going to be nice weather since it's going to be in a dome. Jay, I'm going to start with you first in this game. Dallas, Philadelphia tonight. Who has the edge? Can the Eagles get it done? Or you know what? Still don't trust that Eagles secondary. I don't care who's coming back for them.
Donnie, I have been stopping myself from hitting the button on the Eagles money line and the Eagles +3 to support your team all week long, bro. The only thing that's keeping me off this game is that secondary.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we talked about it last week. The front seven played out of its mind the last couple of years. They've been ordinary this season. That shows the cracks in this secondary. And, you know, it's going to give Dak an opportunity to go over the top. They're going to have to stack 8 in the box, right? They're going to have to respect Zeke Elliott. And I could just see Cooper going, you know, Dak to Cooper over the top 3 times this game. And it's the only thing stopping me from pulling the trigger on this Eagles money line and taking the 3 points. I agree with the total, with the move. 48.5. Last night when I checked, it was 49.5. I'm not sure what it is now, but I agree with that. I think we probably see points. I think Dallas, because they have not been good offensively the last few weeks, I think Dallas against this secondary will probably get back on track offensively. The analytics love both these teams offensively. But I don't know, man. By the time tonight comes, I might pull the trigger on your team.
Now, it should be, you know what, Ian's a good thing about this game is when we talk about, we have all the ammunition usually when we come on the closing line on Sunday for the 1 o'clock games, and not so much the 4 o'clock because we know who's in and who's out. There's so many key injuries. Like Ronald Darby's going to make his return to this football game. How do we know he doesn't warm up and retweak that, you know, foot? Or how do we know Ron Darby, who's questionable, is a go or not? That could be a huge ingredient. And the same thing with the Cowboys. Hey, Amari Cooper went on the field, tested it pregame. Doesn't look like it went too well. He's going to sit this one out. Not knowing any of that information, Ian, let's take a look at this football game as is. Do we see points? Are we going to go with the home team with a cheap line? Are we going to believe in the Eagles that got shelled last week? What's the deal tonight?
Yeah, I mean, everybody making a big deal, too, with Doug Peterson in his quote earlier this week.
Yes.
Supposed to say we're going to lose in Dallas.
Exactly. I like that.
I don't
Yeah, you're
believe
right.
in us. I don't believe in us. We're just going to go there and fold the tent. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? We're trying to build confidence. We're not trying to break each other down. I love that, his response there. Obviously, for Dallas, I mean, it's looking probable for all these guys, but we really won't know until like an hour when Football Night in America's on NBC, and we'll see the guys on the warm-up. I mean, we're talking about 3 offensive linemen, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, the left tackle, La'el Collins, all probable right now. Randall Cobb probable, Byron Jones cornerback. Like all of these guys looking like they're on track to play, but do we know for sure? That's the question. I could only take Philly here, plus the 3 points. I trust them. Let's be honest. Dallas feasted on the week to get the 3 wins they got. Okay, Miami, Washington, and the Giants with Eli. All right?
Yes.
Those are the 3 wins for the Dallas Cowboys. They have not beaten a quality foe. They lost to New Orleans. They lose last week to the Jets, which was, with Darnold back, they were pumped up. I get that. Still not a great loss if you're the Cowboys there. And the one thing Philly does is stop the run. With all the injuries, they've been very good up front, stopping the run. Daring Dak Prescott to beat you with his arm, I think, is the recipe for success tonight for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they can contain Zeke Elliott, and that ground game, it's been a pretty good D against the run. Donnie can attest to that. I would lean Philly here, plus the 3 points in this one.
Key ingredients also for the Eagles side. We talk about that running game. Nigel Bradham not going to suit up tonight. That could be big with the Camus, Grugier, Hills at linebacker and guys you've never heard of. But it'll also, let's take a look at this, which sometimes in the past hasn't worked out all too well for the Eagles. Look, I think Andre Dillard, a really good football player, will turn into one. Let's not forget he's going to get his first career start today with Jason Peters being down at left tackle. We'll see if that holds up, get some sacks. Robert Quinn could get going. There's a lot of question marks, so I do hasten it, even though I think the Eagles can be competitive here. Look, if it was the same thing all week for me. If Amari Cooper didn't suit up, I would love the Eagles. But if you have a competent wide receiver that can get deep, until I see it to believe it for the Eagles, it's going to be hard for me to bet them.
One last thing on this game, Donnie. I don't know how good Dallas is yet.
Yeah,
like think about the wins. Miami, Washington, 1A, 1B, worst teams in the NFL, and the Giants with Eli. It was terrible in that football game and been terrible the last year or so. How good are Dallas? I guess we'll find out tonight.
Yep, lost to a winless team last week on the road for the Jets, where you thought they would just come up and be like, let's just put this team away and go play the Eagles. And they got stunted, actually came back in the football game, but we're down big early. Time for picks here on the closing line, powered by SportsBookReview.com. Let's give a couple winners here on the show today. Jay, we'll start with you. What are we looking at today that some of these people can eat off of in the chat box?
Donnie, I'm going to go with the over 46 in the Houston-Indy game.
Okay.
I really think that the line has moved the wrong way. I think the public's wrong on this one. And I'm going to fall into a trap and lay the 3 with the Rams. That's what I'm going with. Those are my 2 picks.
There we go. Ian Cameron, how about yourself on this point right now? What are we looking at? Plays of the day for Ian.
Let's do, you know what? I don't want to lay 3.5 with the Giants. I like 3. I'll go over 49.5 though in that game. Arizona, New York Giants. I'll go with Indy Pick'em minus 125 at 5 dimes is the best one out there right now. We'll go with the LA Rams, which is also my best bet, -3, minus 120. And let's give you something from the late games. Let's go Baltimore, Seattle over 48.5. So there's my plays. Let's rock with that.
There we go. I'm going to go with 2 today. I'm going to go a little bit against the grain. And you know, you could come and laugh at me, you can text me, whatever. The Buffalo Bills team total, they hit 30 points in this game against the Dolphins. Yes, those Buffalo Bills. Wow. That'll be my first play. And then I'm going to go Jacksonville Jaguars, which I had it over 43. But with it being the closing line in the game about to get started, it's at 44. So I'm going to go over 44 in the Jacksonville game. So 2 beat-up teams, so to speak, in that Jacksonville game. And the Buffalo Bills, of all teams, that usually need 3 games to score 30 points. I'm going to go, they hit 30 today. It's been a lot of fun on the show. A 3-man weave today with Ian Cameron and also Jay, along with myself, right here on Sportsbook Vietnam for the closing line. 1 minute till games. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Ian, leave them with something real quick before we get out of here, buddy.
That's great. I mean, great week to be on the closing line. I like this card. Let's cash some tickets. Great working with Jay and Donnie. Great stuff. Lots of fun. Let's cash some winners today.
Jay, how about you, buddy, before we get out of here?
Live line. We're going to be live betting on SBR right now from 1 o'clock until the 4 o'clock games. We're going to take a break. We'll be back for Sunday Night Football. Let's make that money, boys.
Awesome. Let's do it again next week. Sportsbookraview.com for all the latest in live movements, SBRodds.com. We'll do it again as we do every single week on the closing line, 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, setting up you for NFL football. Join us next week. Good luck on your wagers, guys.
Good luck, everybody.